Hello, and welcome back. Northstar here with another Hearts Iron 4. Um, got the Dameron US Socialist run. I know it's been a bit. I've been doing the multiplayer campaign. Also also US with Mexico is my ally under my friend's control. Some guy I do the Age of Wonders 3 campaign with. And maybe some of you even following that. Maybe some of you only interested in this campaign. So I apologize for the wait. Long COVID's been brutal. Sometimes it's hard to find the energy to do this game, and single player is less forgiving of mistakes. Multiplayer, I have another player with me, the two of us teaming up, and humans playing better than AIs. Generally speaking, even if neither of us plays this optimally, it's more than enough. Plus, the path that AIs have chosen in the past make for a much easier game than this one's going to be, where Germany is staying fascist, and yeah, UK might be going non-aligned and allying with them, or going fascist themselves. It's not going to be great. Um, I've seen no sign of decolonization. I think it would have gotten a news ticker event for that, and they're taking change of course. That would mean they're going fascist non-aligned usually. Um, since if they're doing reinforced, they don't take reinforced empire if they're going communist. And player can do that and just have a civil war to maintain control of all the imperial positions. You might not want to do it, but you could for some reason, if that's your interest. All right. Now, I don't want to take forever to talk about all things I've been up to with Microsoft, but I will mention I've got a ton of divisions queuing up. Have learned you keep control of all your divisions when the Second American Civil War breaks out. That is second as opposed to the 1860s one. So it's my interest to expand my army nice quickly. Even with these tiny divisions, these are only 1 battalion. They're going to be free to deploy at 20%, then enlarged to much larger divisions that have almost no bloody equipment, but turned to something like, well, this is really large, 13,000 men, but that's good for being converted to something like this, or the National Guard divisions. So, like these. And then they'll just train. They should actually be able to eventually reach regular given enough timing with the pitiful amount of equipment they'll have, but they'll also gain cold, heat acclimatization, have lots of vision so I could start even training Marines earlier. Design a ton of divisions, including these, includes the Marines. Some stuff with so also Marines, some stuff that's pure artillery, which I've decommissioned, like these motorized and non-motorized, which will eventually be expanded into motorized divisions, the motorized artillery and infantry divisions that have some line artillery. So I think the biggest pure is 4, which I probably won't use, but I'll just save in while it was free to make this large. This and this are the same. What? That was probably accidental. 4, 3. This should be 2. Well, I'll save this. Didn't cost anything to fix that. So most likely early on, I'll be doing this and adding 6 infantry battalions. I know that might seem a little low, but I want a high artillery fraction to reduce losses. not going to have that many divisions. It's going to have a few shot divisions and like that. And concentrate a bunch of them. You can only fit so many combat width. That would be an 18 width division, which, 5 of them for a one-side attack on planes, like 8 for attacking from 2 directions. So, just a few localized points to break through with infantry, since the US starts with Jackal for good tank designs. Before I switch off this, which I'm doing for a while to take advantage of the cheaper design, I'll probably also eventually design something with some self-propelled artillery. I'll need another artillery type before I can even design any of that. But since someday I'll probably use I'll just design some templates that are pure self-propelled I won't actually be using for a while, but eventually I'll want self-propelled in some of my tank divisions. Most likely just light self-propelled, but I might not want to spend the army XP to actually design the tank, so I might just design light self-propelled, and what that'll end up being is light self-propelled with someday fixed superstructures, so they can someday mount medium turrets. But early on, I'll design tank templates that use light, and that can be used for whatever design. Or maybe I won't. Close support guns initially be the first light self-propelled. Those don't need fixed superstructures, but regardless, light self-propelled, complementing light tanks and eventually medium tanks. It's not really worth going all the way to medium self-propelled. It's part of the point of self-propelled is to save on industry, and if you're using light, to save on fuel. So you can field more tank divisions and all, rather than just pure tanks. A lot of people love pure tanks, but you don't need more breakthrough in the attack the enemy can leverage against you. So a lot of times it's just wasteful. You'll get more attack per industry, and even slightly more at the higher attack levels per combat width, but not the lower ones using self-propelled. And it can help economize on fuel too. So the US has very few concerns, but enough of that. I'm just gonna have to watch stuff with the Hawk, with Congress, my support. It's gonna be Agricultural Adjustment Act, Beelining Union Representation Act, Accumulated Wealth Tax, because this should actually complete after the election at this point, which is in about 4 months, so 120 days. So that reset congressional support if it falls. I'll definitely have enough to go right into this. Then a slight delay where I do nothing until Fair Labor Standards Act, only 20-day delay. And then at that point, I'm going to go right for Selective Training Act, because my Civil War won't be too long. I'll get 20% war support, just being the Civil War, Defensive War, another 10 from Selective Training Act, and then I can grab Beyond Guarantee the American Dream and get another 10, and with a little world tension from various things that we go on elsewhere, or a little propaganda, I should be able to get to 50 and go right to war economy, which would be great. And keep the Civil War going for a while to not drop below it, and also let the Confederacy build some build slots. So let's go. Just need to pause for a second, take a few deep breaths. Probably mess stuff up. I hate that I'll mess stuff up, but never get anything done if I don't pause. So main first thing that's gonna change also this is going to make it too hard to, is I'm going to need to early pre-deploy some divisions. Nice. Also want to consider putting some M1s. I think I've been selling them all into training before too long. Yeah, I've been selling them all. And selling whatever I can, honestly. All for jacked up prices, of course. I'm about to run out of fuel. So I'm going to hold off on the air exercises a little bit. Just doing that to try and get to 50 air experience so I can take this. Get some passive air XP. So I can get air doctrines. It's better in the long run than aircrew surveys if you're going to be at peace for all in time. Not benefiting from the air accidents reduction. Excuse me. And you don't have a lot of focus tree reductions, costs of doctrines. This will save you 15 XP each doctrine. But this will increase with a typical expert your air experience gain by a third, and this still by a quarter, which is better than 15% reduction cost. Anyways, I've redeployed some ships up here. Spanish Civil War will be occurring, but not much I can do about it. Unlike my multiplayer game where I was able to essentially launder rifles through Mexico with the help of my friend. Here, I can only watch and probably see the nationalists win with the Germans helping them. Although, Portugal may be of assistance to them. France is going with Leon Blum. It's actually their right-wing path that's more likely to aid the Republic, even if they request aid. So, probably not. Or we can watch and probably see things fall apart. Eventually, I want to swap those to avoid too much airflow. So I'm messing with the volume a little. So I'm doing a small lobbying effort. It's about 9. God, why do I keep playing this song? Just to keep you folks from being bored. It's about 9 political power each time you run it. It's the most cost-effective way if you're not, say, already sitting at 0 political power and negative gain. In which case you might want to run a medium lobbying effort right between focuses when you can. Because you're temporarily not at negative gain, but you will be when you run the focuses kind of situation. But the rest of the time, small lobbying effort, most effective way, cost-effective way in terms of political power to gain support in Congress. Other, of course, running farm subsidies and not ever adjusting the budget to trade off industry. It's because I'll want to make sure I don't fall below the support level I need for UN representation at. There's always a chance of getting in trouble there and not be able to run this, and that would really mess me up. So this provides a little cushion against events. Also, I lose some support here, and I could potentially lose enough that I wouldn't be able to run this. I can only afford to lose 14 representatives, and I'll probably lose more, so When I'm doing suspend persecution, I may need to run small lobbying again if I lose enough support. Alright. Storm coming, that's better, so I'll probably do that soon enough. Right click to turn off notifications for currently available decisions. That's an easy way to only be notified when new ones become available. To remember that in the future when I start new games. Alright. Making these for sale. These for training. Stockpiling M1s for actually equipping troops for the Civil War. 18th, this will be done. Let's see who's buying from me right now. The UK. It's concerning. I suspect when they're going fascist path, they buy a lot of stuff. They might be going fascist, although that involves attacking Italy and not allying with the Nazis. So maybe that's better non-aligned, actually. But it makes them the most aggressive in terms of militarizing of all the past. Netherlands, Ireland, Colombia, Bolivia. Guess it's good Bolivia didn't flip to non-aligned via event. When this guy remains in power, they remain under liberalism instead of becoming non-aligned. I turn off the air exercises. I'm no longer running a fuel deficit. Cool. When I reduce the Great Depression, I'll have fuel surplus even with the air exercises. So I only need to that till agriculture adjustment act, really. These guys can't pre-deploy yet. You know what? I could probably not far from that. Let's see. It'll take a sec to accurately tell me how long to run out of fuel. Slowly calculating. Right now it's saying I'm not running deficit. It has something to do with ships redeploying or something. Moving around. Up and down the coast. S-Class subs are pretty weak. Should probably put their repair priority on high. Actually, very few hit points. Making it a higher likelihood. I think you can lose ships and naval exercises if you just continuously run those. And yeah, I shifted more of the dockyards to this, try and get this done sooner, but without completely abandoning this because Want the enterprise done in useful amount of time. Former Civil War. I care less if the Wichita. So I have 2. I can have 6 dockyards in all in these 2. One's down to 1. It's only 5. So the star map production needs to be complete for them both to be done. Alright then. But yeah, these got completed fast. Did I show the completion of these earlier? The completion of this design, that is. It's a version of the Farragut without the fire control system, not cost effective on such a cheap ship. You're better having just more destroyers than more accurate ones. And designed by the MIO for the buffs that provides. Grenade 2, which still has the fire control. That's for if I ever retrofit the A1s just to have the MIO bonuses. I'm pretty sure it's very cheap. Still, maybe not cost effective. If I'm trying to focus on quality over quantity a little on my destroyers, it may be worth it someday. Maybe alongside other modernizations, but ripping out the fire control actually makes the retrofits take longer, so I shouldn't do it for those. How long until I can pre-deploy? 4, 5 days. I'll have to remember that. Right around the 18th or 17th. Check on the 16th, actually. Sorry, I know some of you probably would love the music, but it kind of stresses me. Makes it hard for me to focus. And my long COVID's been particularly brutal, so I have a hard time listening to the music and still playing. I should learn is video editing so I can play silently and then edit in music later. Although then I don't think it could be the game music, because I own the soundtrack, like the independent soundtrack that you can play outside the game. Not sure if it's legal to take it out of the game files. I'd have to use random things that are free to use on YouTube. I won't get in the way of someday monetizing my channel. It's worth noting a number of these game music files randomly hit YouTube copyright, even though they're definitely not against copyright. They're allowed because they're part of the game. I've objected to those as, being under fair use, gameplay being part of the game soundtrack, and they get rejected by people in the copyrights who often, sometimes even identify songs that aren't the game songs. They're different songs entirely. I've listened to a song that thinks it is. So someone who's holding for copyright for an entirely different song will reject the appeal, or will reject the objection, the contesting for, these assholes just reject everything. Even when it's literally not their song that's being played, and it's part of a gameplay soundtrack, which should be covered by fair use, even if it was their song. There's a lot of other things for fair use, but that's one of the many. Greedy capitalist pricks. Capitalism sucks too. We live in a world where ambulance rides in the United States can cost hundreds to thousands of dollars. I'm not kidding. Sometimes many document cases of costing 2,000 plus. In some areas, for a while, the average cost was $2,500 in certain cities and states in the U.S. It varies regionally, but I think that's come down a little bit, but not much, and it'll be back up again to even higher numbers in the future. It's based partly on the current um, relative balance of like how much the insurance companies are bargaining it down a little bit. And often that's actually, sometimes the numbers say it is for uninsured patients a little cheaper if you have insurance. But yeah, I worked as an EMT for a while. I can confirm. I even asked how much we were charging patients. It was, and I was given an answer, hundreds of dollars. It was like $950 or $850. It's all to low thousand, and that was a company that charged less than average. It's all too common to charge an arm and a leg for an ambulance ride in the United States. And, of course, we do all sorts of other horrible things, like we've supported genocides. Well, the CIA has, not Americans. The whole point is this is the U.S. government, which is beholden to capitalists. And it'd be nice to have a better world. One where people with disabilities weren't mistreated, where and government agencies properly funded, and we weren't destroying the climate, because even as there's a massive ramp up in renewables, that's just being used to supplement fossil fuel energy production, as we're just consuming more energy than we would have if we'd stuck to just fossil fuels, or a very tiny, almost insignificant decrease in net total energy. I mean, so in total fossil fuel energy consumption, there's not a replacement effect that's noticeable. What's going on is what the statistics show. Um, and that's because capitalism says, hey, we can just make more money by consuming more energy in our manufacturing processes and such. The factory owners figured that out. There may be a small degree to which they're like electrifying machinery that sometimes was run by in third world countries, like not coal power, like burning more often. I think oil and local generators at the grid was poor. As renewables can sometimes help deal with a weaker grid, but then the oil just goes and gets burned in cars instead. It's another thing. All this emphasis on carbon footprint, bullshit. It makes very little difference, because if someone consumes in, say, the US a little bit less oil, it just gets sold in India for a slightly cheaper price. That marginally affects how much investment there is in increasing production, because when prices are lower, it's less worthwhile in adding new production, but it does not stop existing production. No matter how much you watch your carbon footprint, existing production is just going to keep going up. It may go up slower, but it'll still go up. And what we need is for production of oil and coal and natural gas to go down. It's the only way we can not have climate collapse, is if we have to start decreasing production every year of fossil fuels and eventually phase it out. But we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. No matter how much renewables we produce, it's just going to lead to more energy consumption, because there's always ways to make a profit off consuming more energy, and profit rules capitalism. So, yeah, eco-socialism is the answer, but that's not going to happen without a lot of opposition from the powerful. Right. Fords are ideal places for mines. These are my mine lane cruisers. Some subs. Visibility reduction helps subs a ton. And a couple of destroyers are already at Panama. That's right, just to make sure the Panama Canal also can't be attacked by the Confederates. I'm going to keep some ships here in the Caribbean, and the rest are going to be in the eastern seaboard to prevent naval invasions and do strike forces. Maybe to still do some exercises, but I'll need a lot of my fleet to be ready to fight naval battles. So, and then eventually, a little later, I'll probably try and do convoy raiding and cut off resources, but not right away. Wait till they have more factors online. It makes a bigger impact since I will be sinking my own convoys this way. But yeah, eventually I'll strangle them of any resource imports is the idea. It's going to be a prolonged civil war, so it'll be worth it. Partly for the war support effects. Oh yeah, shh. I keep saying I'm gonna, it didn't hurt to do a little extra training. Saves me some equipment. These guys are, however, at their equipment limit, so they... Alright, these guys are too. So these two divisions both be deployed. They're here. Do I want... This guy is old guard, so bench divisions who are under him can be more entrenched. He's an infantry leader and he's a flexible strategist, so I might actually use him for some defense. Arkansas, it's not worth a ton. I have to make it all the way a little rock. It's more okay here. I'm just going to the river. I think I just want to create a new army for now. Third army. Bradley will probably be the guy I use early. He's got 5 planning. Equal MacArthur's my top guy, but he's got more defense skill. And early on, my divisions are going to be so darn under-equipped, they may actually need defense, not suffer crits. Some of these smaller ones. Okay. I may change some of this with microing off camera later, but Bradley, I'm going to eventually promote to Field Marshal. He's also good with logistics, so let's strain my network. But yeah, I have divisions along here. Be ready to push into Nashville early in the war. It's the victory point for Tennessee, so we can recapture all these factories and building. That's going to be a high priority early. So I want to line up troops around these mountains. Maybe push into at least this part of Texas before it can be fortified by the Confederates. It's mountains along a river, easy to defend once to take it. If I change the color of these to like a dark purple, so it stands out a little against the other colors. Yeah, whatever. The other problem with not pre-deploying these guys, besides losing time, is they could receive equipment again when I want it to be distributed evenly among the rest. They have 207 Springfield rifles. Didn't give them any more, thankfully. Alright, where to put them? Here. That'll have to do. Cool. Decision, small lobbying, medium lobbying. I don't have to do it instantly. I can just watch to see. Oh, I don't even have political power saved up to run it later if I... Alright then. No, I don't want to overdo it. I'll just wait to see what happens with how much I lose here. Should I? I'm certainly gonna lose enough support. I'll need this again, especially if I gain bad events. Probably won't need it again after this though. Oh, shoot. These guys were this, right? So 3. Might want an extra infantry battalion, just a sympathetically small number of. Yeah, yeah. Or they don't even have any support equipment, do they? Nope. Turn to this. Yeah, better deployed early. I'm just going to do exercise brigade engineer. I don't need them getting reinforcements. Also, this is set to low priority. This is upgrades to try and. Let's see. Exercise, exercise, exercise. Should make sure. Nobody's getting more equipment. Retainies is an engineering brigade type. They produce less army experience. They will just be able to switch to one that gets equipment and be regular right from the start. Nashville's a very important place to take. These will probably eventually switch to small exercise engineering. But for now, I'm just getting the extra army XP from not having unequipped engineer brigades, which actually hurt army experience gain. Because the support equipment is overweighted, determining how equipped a division is. Prototype decisions. All right, cool. This is a absolutely critical thing. With reviving the whole concept of a torpedo cruiser, we need to make an important decision about its role with our fleet. Should we focus on their strength, torpedoes, or just the prime weakness, fighting destroyers? This would give 15% light attack, battery hit chance. Seems good, except most of their slots are limited to torpedoes. Strength, torpedoes, that's much more useful because they'll have so many more torpedoes equipped if you're designing them to actually, be worth building. I suppose the weakness could be useful for if you just wanted to have purely them, but you're better off just covering them with some cruisers that are designed to deal with enemy destroyers, light cruisers that actually have proper cannons for that. Okay. Cultural Adjustment Act will finish. Cool. Right into suspend the persecution. Because they need to run Union Representation Act by like November 14th at the latest. I'm not sure exactly when the 36th elections are, what day of the month. Was it the second Tuesday in November, which is a different day every year. I'm almost to August here, which means I have a little like less than 100, like around 100 days to that. So enough time to finish this, starting this. This will finish after the elections, then go right into this without delay, which reduced the Great Depression. Yes, the Cumulative Wealth Tax Act stimulates the economy, as does Worker Management Act and Communal Property Acts, though you'd probably never ever be running these while still having depression, unless you completely ignored this and just beeline right down here for some strange reason. Usually you do this, and you often Fair Labor Standards Act before the Worker Management Act. How am I doing for sport? 262 in the House. Oh, nice. I didn't lose much. In fact, only one representative short of already being able to do your representation act. So unless I get a negative event, I'm guaranteed to be able to run it. Did need that last small lobbying effort though. Otherwise, it'd be one representative short, shy. Cool. I have more political power now that I am no longer in the depths of the Great Depression, but making a slow recovery. I don't think I ran out of fuel. I'll have to check the video later. I think I was able to do this right up to the end because for a while I was running surplus. But now it's bigger surplus because the Great Depression harms your resource gain efficiency. Still at minus 15% on that, but it was minus 20, I think. The persecution of American citizens for their political views, no matter how abhorrent they may seem, is fundamentally at odds with the values of this country. It must cease immediately. I disagree that socialism is abhorrent, but the ruling class would probably believe that. People who have money don't want to see, and I'm not talking like, oh, you work a good job and you have good pay, but people who own, millions in stocks and bonds and corporations that they privately own that aren't publicly traded, or majority shares, publicly traded, or whatever, or even just a large share. People who, and CEOs who technically don't own the companies very often use their position and their collusion with investors to get disproportionately high pay. These sort of people don't want to see their stocks and bonds essentially seized when you nationalize companies. And sometimes people who are landlords or CEOs will see, like, third, fourth homes taken from them large in Latin America with haciendas and such, which were essentially plantations worked by modern serfs. Often these estates were just outright seized from those people and redistributed to the farmers, the people who actually worked the land, which of course generated a huge number of former landowners from Cuba who came to Miami and endlessly whine about the communism in Cuba. Not huge, but like a few thousand, because there were thousands of these large semi-feudal estates brutally oppressing people in what was essentially modern-day slavery. That's why I sometimes see socialists say former slave owner complains it wasn't actually slavery, but was the rulers of haciendas were so powerful they could do horrendous things like take the daughters of the workers against not really willingly, like using their position in what would be considered worse than harassment by today's standards, let's just say. They could sometimes just take nice objects from their workers, like just steal from them with no real repercussions. They could beat their workers. Yes, these people basically had slaves. And when those slave plantations were taken from them, along with their mansions that were supported by that labor, they came to Miami and whined and cried about tyranny in Cuba and insisted the U.S. government try to overthrow Castro, which the American ruling class, being, like the multimillionaires, gladly went along with, because bringing capitalism back to Cuba provide plenty of opportunities to privatize state industries, divide up the land to American agribusiness, and just make tons of money for the rich in America. Neocolonialism. Conveniently, when stuff gets reprivatized, American companies always somehow get very, very, very good deals on the property, just like in Ukraine with the U.S. aligned government that came into power after the 2014 coup. Euromaidan, some people claim it's not a coup. It was just a soft coup, if you will. But there were fascists committing street violence that drove police brutality and exchange, but eventually Capitol buildings were stormed by force, kind of like a January 6th, but all over the country. That's a coup. And it was really led by a small group of highly organized, highly trained people funded by the U.S. and other countries. It wasn't just U.S. U.S. had been funding organizations that supported the political groups that did this for years in the interest of, quote, building democracy. So you could claim that it wasn't actually to fund the coup, and the U.S. also hides behind that, but there was money being put into the country through the National Endowment for Democracy, which is a CIA front group that, was revealed as such in the 1970s, but yet the CIA still uses this front group that anyone who can look at old newspaper articles knows for a fact is a CIA front group, because the New York Times exposed it in like 70-something as such. Shortly after it was formed, in fact. The NED was pouring money into building pro-American media and building the capabilities of the political parties in the country that were anti-Russia, including some of the far-right ones that proceeded to provoke violence. Those ones got disproportionate amounts of the funding, and representative speaks passionately in favor of the support of the government. Oh, nice. More representatives didn't even need to do the lobbying effort, unless they get a negative event soon. Yeah, not to say I'm not like defending Russia, which is not communist. It's not the Soviet Union anymore. It's a capitalist autocracy under Putin. Has been since the fall of the Soviet Union. It's been corrupt oligarchs ruling Russia. Ukraine has bounced back and forth between pro-US and pro-Russian governments, none of which have been democratic, all of which have been brutal autocracies that rigged elections, committed coups in the country to come to power, etc. You can find ones, both sides doing this. It's not a stable democracy. It's not really a democracy, it's an oligarchy. Just like the US is really just an oligarchy, not a democracy either. Um, but Ukraine is definitely worse in that regard. Anyways, where was I going with this? Oh, yes, so assets are being privatized en masse there. Um, where is the. Oh, it's showing me these people. Haven't completed suspended persecution. Bowder. I can actually wait 10 days, save up progress for Union Representation Act without losing time, and have Bowder always sign then, if I wish. If I don't want communism support to go up too quickly. But I probably should just assign right away. There are advantages to it, such as being able to run anti-communist raids for base stability or have more communism support when I take this focus, and I can no longer use my communist advisor because it becomes the country leader, and the game divs and think to give the U.S. multiple communist people, maybe others that are locked behind already being communist, to boost ideology. Anyways, or any national spirit, they can do it or anything. Decisions that are repeatable or anything. So there's mass privatization of formerly state-owned industries in Ukraine, and somehow American companies just get sweetheart deals on these. The auctions are being done publicly in assets, which in theory should lead to the best prices. But there have been things like evidence that American companies are being advance notice when a particular asset will go on sale. So they can make sure they get financing stuff to make sure they have more money available. And sometimes suspiciously little being done to publicize certain assets going on sale. And sometimes it's just a matter of no one in the country Ukraine has the money to buy it. So it's going to be multinationals. And the multinationals will work to make sure they don't bid against each other so the prices don't go too high. They collude. So it may not actually be the Ukrainians that are causing this, but like British and French American multinationals colluding to make sure that the price isn't too high. But in the end of the day, and it's not just American companies, but foreign companies are getting ridiculously low prices on buying up some very valuable assets, including farmland in Ukraine. And there have been newspapers in Europe that write about this, that criticize it. It's not like in America, this is being censored and the media is being strongly encouraged not to report on this. It's not de facto censorship, but the U.S. government has a close relationship with a lot of media companies and can pressure them on the sly not to report on certain things, and that's what is going on in this case. There's nothing illegal or even technically unconstitutional about it, but it's since people can say, oh, we just took advantage of our strong working relationships, or deny they even pressured the media companies, but they are pressuring them not to say things that would embarrass the U.S. government's narrative. But in Europe, you see some left-wing newspapers. I don't mean communists, I mean like trade union-aligned, center-left, social democrat, also newspapers writing about it. Some that are just very pro-EU newspapers who want to see Ukraine in the EU, but they want Ukraine to not have this corruption of assets being sold off at very low prices, which leads to the government not being able, because these assets sometimes were making revenue, so it's also hurts government revenue if they don't make good prices to replace the lost revenue from the state assets. The government's going to end up even further in debt. They don't want Ukraine to be heavily indebted. They don't want, a lot of times, the proceeds from these sales are also, some of it's getting stolen. So by like corruption. So that makes the situation even worse. The prices aren't low because what little money is brought in, some of it's stolen. Uh, these newspapers don't want to see the things sold at reasonable prices with the money carefully watched so it doesn't get stolen, and that's not what's happening. It's very low prices, and then what little is um, obtained just disappears into corruption holes and doesn't go and help the country in any way. And that's not new. That's what happened with the neoliberal shock therapy all over Eastern Europe when countries were forced by the US into privatizing across Eastern Europe. The money from selling state assets would always disappear into corruption, and the countries would become heavily indebted because they no longer have state assets making revenues that would go into the government budget. But the prices were not what was fair, and sometimes these assets have been built by borrowing money. A great example is that Romania, which communist Romania borrowed money, sometimes even the IMF. That money directly or more often indirectly was going into supporting government budget, and the government was also investing money in state assets. So indirectly, money that was borrowed was used to build up state assets, and then that state assets were sold at very low prices, so not even enough to pay back the debt of building the state assets up very often. So they had both debt and then all the money from the sales, or at least not enough after corruption holes for sure. And then the governments were heavily indebted without the revenue they'd come to rely on. And the assets are owned by foreign companies, so the money didn't circle in the local economy, so tax revenues wouldn't be good. This is just screwed over Eastern Europe. It's why no country in Eastern Europe is better off now than it was under communism, except for Poland. And some of the Baltic countries are close to being as well off, but they actually are, by many, many statistics, slightly worse off. Poland is the only country that's better off than it was under the Warsaw Pact. And that just shows to go how badly neoliberal shock therapy screwed up Eastern Europe. Like, the US could have done it differently. They could have provided economic development aid without a million stipulations that screwed the countries, provide more aid for fewer or no stipulations, and not insisted on this rapid privatization, which was intentionally done at rates that were not going to get your price of the assets. Which ostensibly was done so that it would happen so quickly that there couldn't be any public opposition to rein it in, which is itself undemocratic. If the people don't want it to happen, it shouldn't happen. But in reality, it was also partly done that quickly because then the assets would be sold off so quickly there could be no bidding up of prices because there would be so many things to bid on, and thus Western companies could get very good deals in assets they were buying very cheap. Yep. Shows the brutality of capitalism, what happened. And then somehow this crash gets blamed on communism when it was capitalism that caused the crash with neoliberal shock therapy. It's typical, though. Capitalism screws something up and then blames it on the socialists. Always. I mean, you can see the opposite sometimes where socialists would screw something and blame on the capitalists. That's just the nature of that rivalry sometimes. But yep. Doesn't show this in yellow, but really it is already at the one here. Okay, if I want people to march down to Nashville quick, I might want to go here. They can cut off this train route in case there's strategic redeployment divisions, and they might even make it to this someday. Cross the river would be slower. Yeah, I'll put a division here. Since crossing rivers is slow, it's going to be a separate fallback line. this non-aligned states of America. I don't care much to defend these two provinces. See, it's easier to defend the forest. Unless I'm going to push down here, take this route to Little Rock. Go for the supply up, you know? I might go for the supply up. Might. We'll see. Should probably prioritize. These guys are under Bradley's. Good plan, or probably do more of a western offensive early. I hold the line at here. Clark's good for that. Infantry officer. Pretty high attack. Just got defense, not the lowest defense skill. My army, though one of the better ones. Though Simpson has slightly better. Bradley offers better. Anyways, Race Rose has terrible defense skills, so I'm not likely to use him offensively. Maybe pushing down here. Bradley's the man to do it. Less so Mark Clark. I think I want to redo this under this guy, though. Because I'll probably be entrenched in these mounds, is the idea. Anyways. Need to defend Albuquerque directly if I can defend this, but put troops here and here. Try and push into here, even if there's division here, if I can cut it off here, that'd be good. So actually I'll just there. You can redeploy here strategically. Put some men under Bradley down here. Grab defensive terrain while it's weakly defend. Save me the grief of taking it later when it could be more strongly defend. And hey, if I can retake Texas early, that'll be great. It's got a lot of civ factories. Which Confederates might use to build mill, which mean weapons that we use against me, more troops trained, and that means more manpower lost from my recruitable pop in the south. I'll switch this down later. December 29th. So yeah. No system is perfect, and I'm sure I'm going to get some right-wing pricks harassing me for the things I say, because they don't make valid points. They just harass people and call them propagandists, whatever nonsense. to avoid actually engaging with issues. Convinced many of them don't have a decent thought in their head, only know how to yell and then ironically say that that's the case of their opponents. But maybe not. Maybe people will not harass me for saying these things eventually, or say something intelligent if they do leave comments. Too used to the days where I used to use Reddit, and the quality of discussion on that site is garbage. Absolute sewer garbage levels of so much name calling by right wingers there. And anarchists, honestly. It's one of the only places I've ever found substantial numbers of anarchists there, and they're always pricks. Anarchists and Trotskyites, actually. Yes, Trotskyites. That's a form of communist, but they love to insult every other type of leftist or social democrat. They shit on some social democrats because they're not communists. They shit on democratic socialists because they're not Marxist-Leninists. They shit on Marxist-Leninists who aren't Trotskyites because they're not Trotskyites. Yeah, they're pretty much toxic to everyone. Of course, they shit on right-wingers and centrists. Some of the most difficult people on the internet I found. Trotskyites. Let's see. Porpoise subs here, speed of 19.4. I think the battleships might be, yep, faster than them. Subs, early subs are very slow. As much as I love gaining all this experience, I know I'm going to need the naval superior here. Geez, there's a storm. Waiting till the weather is good on the way. Then I'll make the transit. Hopefully I'll remember. Yeah. Of course, YouTube comment sections are infamously, notoriously toxic, so I don't expect better. Somebody decides to harass me again. I hope for it. Don't expect it. Ooh, everyone's buying my stuff. Norway. Doesn't Norway have... They're going democratic with the broken gun? They're on their democratic path. Why are they buying so much... just many guns? I don't know. I thought the idea of broken gun is... If we don't have a strong military, we won't seem threatening to the ones that will attack us. Except that works maybe for a major country that might be attacked because it's threatening, not for a small country in Norway. Which, just the opposite, needs to be heavily armed to deter aggression. It's not that that concept never works, but clearly the Norwegians had an exaggerated sense of their own strength and importance. Works with countries that are big and powerful that might be attacked preemptively because of being big and powerful. Small countries would need to arm themselves to the teeth if they don't want to be attacked. So it's not worth it, like a Switzerland thing. Argentina's buying stuff, but they lack the convoys, I think. Well, they should have a land route, so why? Something's up. So aren't they going fascist? Maybe not. Harsh Democrat? No. Might actually be staying Democratic. Argentina for all. Yep. They're staying Democratic, all right. Cool. Tend to not like arming my opponents, but this early probably actually weakens anyone who buys equipment more than helps them. Unless they're gonna go to war in 38, which very rarely happens in a big way, so they'd be better off keeping the money and investing it in industry, like military factories, or even civ if it's gonna be a while till war. Alright. Newport News just grew. Gonna do a North Carolina shipbuilding production program. Increase screen production. Which includes light cruisers, which should be most of my torpedo cruisers. Then I'll get this, and at that point there'll be equal production of screen ships to Norfolk. Well, it'll be a while till trades enough better. They wouldn't want them to be designed for Farragut. Reliability is so important. For destroyers, it won't be till I give them mechanical genius that Norfolk would actually be better. And so, could just be aligned only doing Newport News. Someday I've even get to the point of the better destroyers faster, but I'd be burned with some crappier ones for a while. Alright. This Farragut class. Design won't be changing for quite a while. So cheap convoy escorts. Protect against Nazi subs if I go to war with them. Very cheap. What do I? More than enough anti-air for destroyer most of the time. There's bigger ships, they'll get targeted preferentially. If they're always screens, of course they'll get targeted, and this is not enough anti-air for that situation, but even then light cruisers would be preferred over destroyers. But I'll probably have some heavy cruisers mixed into my convoy escort forces eventually. Those get targeted almost exclusively. Just deal with aircraft if I'm getting raided by aircraft. A little bit of torpedo power, firepower. More speed than if it was a level 2 launcher. If it was a level 2 launchers, a single level 2 launcher would have less torpedo attack with the same speed reduction. 2 plus 1 or 2 level 2s would obviously be slower. So this, of course, uses more steel, but otherwise decent, cheap convoy escorts. 36 destroyers would be more expensive. I believe they would consume more manpower and yeah, they would be more reliable though, so the only thing is subs almost never sink destroyers. So if I'm just dealing with subs. If I am dealing with some light cruisers or destroyers, I'm more likely to be wanting to counter those with put the industry into light cruisers. We'll start with the 36 destroyer design. I'll eventually make one, I'm sure. All right, looks like I'm an hour and 15, so this is a reasonable time to cut the recording in a second. So, start a new video. Probably do 2 in this sitting, and that's about it because my energy is limited. All right, well, gosh, I have all these saves of this one. Should touch the Germany one by accident, so I'll leave this as a buffer. Till next time, viewers, this is Northstar. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Adieu.